Hi there, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the third and final video in the restoration of this Braun SK25. A really great little radio and it's looking absolutely fabulous. In this video I'm going to focus primarily on the cabinet restoration. I've got quite a lot to do. The back needs to be redone and I'm using my latest toy. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there to reproduce the back panel. Some painting had to be done, some body filler used because there were cracks all over the place and chips had completely disappeared from the cabinet itself. And also Bluetooth. I wanted to have Bluetooth to this little guy, which is quite a challenge because space was at a premium. But anyway, the end result is sitting over here, and I'm a proud owner of another new Braun SK25. It's my third one in the collection of 3 small models that they came out with. So I'm actually quite a happy camper. If you enjoy this sort of thing, stick around and enjoy the video. But before I carry on, I want to thank the sponsors of the video, PCBWay. You'll find them at PCBWay.com. They're the company that I go for all my boards, and the results have always been incredibly good and incredibly fast. And most of the boards that I designed for my projects are actually in the share section of the website, so you can just simply go there and order them direct. Now, they're actually running the 7th project design contest. So once again, you have another opportunity to come and participate in this contest. The previous contests have actually produced some really incredible products. So by all means, if you've got any ideas, if you've got some really good designs, come in here, submit them, and who knows, maybe your project will be on this prizes page. Go to PCBWay.com, click on the link to the project design contest, and let loose your creative side. Before starting on the actual restoration of the enclosure, there are a few little pieces of paper that came with it, and this one, for example, was on the inside. It's the layout, and it was salvageable. I was able to put the enclosure in water, leave it for some time, and it just peeled off. This little label with a serial number got completely damaged when I removed it, so I created another one. And it was easy enough. I went into an Illustrator-like program, scanned the original one, put it in the background, and started drawing over the top, getting the fonts right, getting the sizes right. This came out perfectly. Of course, it came out in white. We'll get to that in a second. The other thing I wanted to change was the dial. Now, this dial isn't in bad shape, but it's really faded. It's gone kind of funny. I know that this was originally a single color, or I believe it was, and these markers are different to the previous ones. So what I did was I reproduced it. And of course, I didn't reproduce it like this. I reproduced it like that. This is done in Illustrator as well. The font is exactly the same. The size is identical, but of course it comes out, I printed it out in cardboard, comes out white. So I needed to get it exactly like this. And that involves making some tea. Now, I'm not British, so tea is not my thing. I'm Portuguese, we drink a lot of coffee. But what you do is you make a cup of tea, just normal black tea, and let it steep for a while, let it get the color right, and then pour it into some sort of bowl. And then just take one of the white ones and soak it in there and let it stay for a while. Now what I did is I did a few, and depending on how long you leave it, it'll go darker or lighter. So when you've got the right tone, I suggest you do 2 or 3, let them dry, and then when the result is done, you're left with a few options. This is the one I left in for the least amount of time. It's not quite there. I think this one is just perfect. It's probably going to look really, really good on that background, which is not white, by the way. This is it might look like white on the camera, but it's sort of cream. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to stick this on top with glue on the underside, probably just a few dabs. So if someone wants this back, they can just peel this off, and then I'll trim the edges and we'll have that thing done. Because the main issue, the big issue, is this guy over here. But I got a solution for that as well, one step at a time. This is the serial number label. Now, it was all crinkly around the screws, so I'm trying to achieve the same effect. In fact, it wasn't screws. I remember now it was rivets, but the effect was the same. So I used some painter's tape just to hold it in place, let it dry, sort of crinkle cut. And the result is bloody excellent. And as for the faceplate, well, after a bit of trimming and gluing, we've got the result that we are looking for. Looking great. Now the outer edge is covered by the dial, and so we won't see any of that joint at all. And it's done so that if you want to remove it, it's pretty easy. There's very few dabs of glue in there. Okay, now we go to the main challenge. I'd been dreading starting on the case, but once I did, it actually went quite smoothly. First thing I noticed is that all the grey paint washed off literally with warm water. And then it was a question of starting to fill the gaps and the cracks with body filler. I tried a few options. The one I got, I think, was polyester or something, but it works well because it dries quite quickly and you can sand it. So there were a few parts here, like that right-hand corner and also that thread on the inside that had to be literally rebuilt because it was chipped away. And the result, well, yeah, it actually came out quite well, because after that, what I had to do was then give it a nice coat of primer. I did the primer, I put some more body filler in the sections that I could see were not completely well done, sanded again, did it again, and it had to go through a few iterations before I was finally satisfied and before I determined that it was ready to receive the final paint. And after quite a few coats, this is the result. It's come out pretty well. I'm really happy with the rebuilt screw thread over there, and also the corner, the top right-hand corner, which had just disappeared. Now I still see a little mark or two. You can see that when the light hits it. But you know what? I had to get to a point where I had to say enough is enough. And this is the point that I reached. Now the inside is also done. It's also painted, spray painted. I painted this with a graphite color enamel spray paint, and it is satin finish. Quite a few coats. So now this is ready to go to the next step, which is for me to start putting things together. And I'll start with the faceplate. And this just fits literally with those little thingies there. Make sure none of these threads are sticking out, because that would look really crummy. Trim everything that's loose over here. I think that's about it. And I think the best way to do this will be to put it on its back like that. I think that's perfect. Oh, there's a little thread over there. There we go. That's done. Now there are 4 little clips that clip in the back and hold that tightly to the front. I'll do that off camera. And here she is, looking bloody perfect. This corner that had completely been chipped away has been rebuilt. It looks fine. That looks great. That's sort of a, I don't know if I'm getting the right color here, but it's sort of an off-white, like a, well, it's a tea-stained white. And this guy over here was completely rebuilt. Now what I need to do is thread it. I'll make a thread on there. I've already made a small hole, but I'll get a thread right so I can put these screws in. These screws have been derusted and protected with a bit of lacquer. So that's also ready to go. And with that label stuck in there, the inside is now complete. And this is what she looks like with the face on. These knobs have been cleaned. That little black mark was repainted on there. So this is nice and complete. And the dial looks absolutely great. You don't see any of the edges. You can see the light through the little hole that is drilled down there or cut down there. This front is perfect. Now we just need to do the back. So let's put the back on. Like that, right? Now we can do better than that. This is the back that's going on here, and it looks absolutely bloody marvelous. Let me put it on and I'll tell you about it. And here it is. And this was done by cutting it out of this sort of, it's a type of board. It's like It's not quite MDF, it's not quite cardboard. I don't know what this board is called, but I found it. It's the perfect thickness and it was perfect for my needs. And the way I did this is I drew this up and I used my new toy, which is my laser cutter engraver, which I'll be telling you about soon in a video. This was my latest acquisition. Well, actually it was a gift, and I'll tell you about that as well. And it absolutely came at the right moment. It's always like this. It seems to be that every time I need something, somebody offers me exactly what I need. So I guess I have to be thankful for that. But this thing came out beautifully. This thing cut perfectly, and it also engraved. Now, admittedly, the way this is engraved is not quite black. It's the way the engraving works is a laser burning the surface. And if I did this a few more times, I'm sure I could get it darker, but I'm happy with this as it is. I didn't want to push my luck too much. So I got this to the point where I mean, there were quite a few test runs. I must have wasted about 4 or 5 of these boards or these sheets because I had to get the right speed and the right power on the engraver. You know, considering it's the first time I've ever used one of those and I had to learn the software, it's quite a hoo-ha, and finally got it working the way I wanted, and I got the result. I haven't tried much else other than this material, because this is what I was working towards. But this is the back. It looks absolutely fabulous. This thing looks fantastic. And it also has a few more scars. And the reason it's got a few more scars is because I couldn't leave well enough alone. I tried to correct the little dent that was on there, and I used more body filler, and the result is it just came out worse. So what I'm going to be doing when I finish up here is I'm going to be stripping everything down and doing it again. But I want to show you something else that I did here. Remember I told you I was going to put Bluetooth on here, right? Well, I have done that. I faced a dilemma when I was looking at putting Bluetooth on this. The option of putting it inside, you know, putting my normal Bluetooth receiver board, being supplied by the 6.3 volts heater winding, and then sending the signal to the phono inside was just out of the question. There's just no space. And even if I used the little space that it does have, this thing would get far too hot because it does get quite warm in here. So I decided to go for a different option. And here it is. It's now plugged in. So what have we got here? I went for an external option, but I had to make it smaller. I wanted to make this really compact, and well, it's not unobtrusive. You can definitely see it, but I wanted to make sure that it was not offensive, not a big bulky thing, and that it was still supplied by the 6.3 volts AC, and that the signal still went back as per usual. However, the switching of the module on, when you know, remember I showed you I had that option of using the magic eye. There's no magic eye, so this is out of the question here. And there's also nothing on the switches. The switches are very minimalist, as you've seen. In fact, they don't even have an input for the phono, as we've discussed. So I decided to go for this option. It's something that I didn't want to do because it brings with it a few risks. And that was I had to rewire this guy. Now, what did I have to rewire? Well, I've got phono in here as it is, right? So the audio in is the same. I've got ground, the audio ground. I wanted a separate ground for the heater supply, in other words, the supply voltage, and a separate connection for the 6.3 volts. So I've wired those two into different pins over here. And what I'm going to do is I've designed a little label which I'm going to put or stick on the underside, and it's going to be permanently attached to the radio. And this is what it looks like. So basically, anybody who gets this radio will be warned that the phono connector is different to what it's supposed to be. And I just pray that nobody takes a normal phono connector and plugs it in here, because I don't know what the result will be of 6.3 volts getting into an external phono source. Now, what I've got in here is also slightly different. It's not an upgrade from the previous board. I'm sticking to what I said. I'm not going to change it. But I did create a new board, a version that many of you absolutely hate, and which I, after doing this one, am beginning to hate as well. It's an SMD board. It's exactly the same functionality as the other board, but it's all on SMD components because I wanted to make it as small as possible. I've also just extended it so I can use a different type of Bluetooth module, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not doing that at the moment. I've made the supply come in and get switched on over here. Since this is external, you know, why not? Switch it on, switch it off. And just so we don't have another LED here with as a power indicator, I decided to take the blue LED and put it on the outside. And this board, I'm not going to share it yet because I do want to try it a bit more. If I do find that I like it, I might share it as well. I might start using this, but really building this, I think I'm going to try, I might try an assembled version from PCBWay, because honestly, soldering these things is a pain. It's a real pain. I have to agree with that. This thing is, it's got a sleeve, that external sleeve, and it's tied in there. So it looks very neat. It is very neat. The box is made specifically for this. So everything fits nicely. This board has actually got the power selector, the power on using the Magic Eye. It's got that circuit in here already. If you want to use this with inside a radio that has a Magic Eye. So I'll be trying that. When I'm happy with this result, I might publish this version. But this just clips on here. Again, 3D printed. And it just plugs in here. Like that. And this you would leave somewhere at the back of the radio. So when I switch on the radio, I'll switch it on. I've got nothing on here, but if I do that, there's my little blue light looking for Bluetooth. And the reason it may not find it is because I'm using the phone to record right now. But as you can see, it's there. Now let me just put an antenna here so we can pick up something. I've got the FM antenna on here. It's all music. And the way you would set this up is you would do this. Look, I've got it on FM. That's AM, and you just do this. When you've got silence on there, the only signal you'll hear is the one from the Bluetooth. Let me show you that in action. Okay, usual story. I got the iPad paired with the Bluetooth module. Put that volume up, and I'll push play on some royalty-free music. Now watch this. I've still got FM there. So I've still got FM. If I push play, remember I said it would play over any radio signal coming through, which is why you've got to do this. Now it's silent. If I push play, all I hear is my Bluetooth signal. And it's very, very good volume. Actually too loud for this, for my liking right now. It's not quite as well paired in terms of level as what the radio would be. I think it's actually louder. The reason is this thing hasn't got its own selector input, so it's going through a couple of resistors. So you can use it as a stereo input at the back, you know, with the left and right, and it will do its own summing with those two 220k resistors. But as it is, I've got my Bluetooth set to mono. I'm doing the conversion from stereo to mono inside the little module, and then when it goes there, I'm just going into one of the inputs. So yeah, that's it, really. Not much else to say, except this rather weird situation where you can have AM and Bluetooth, or FM and Bluetooth. Really strange, really strange. But that's what we got. And this guy has the switch, so you can just switch it off when you're listening to radio. So you can overcome that issue of having reception on here when you just want to listen to radio. Or if you just leave it and there's no signal going into here, nothing spare to here, and this is on, what I found is that it actually produces very little noise, very little buzz, unless you have it really close up, which is one of the reasons why I did not connect this to the back. The other reason is I don't want to stop the airflow out of there, so it can cool a lot better, but you can just as easily switch it off. No big deal. Okay, that's it, folks. That's our little Braun SK25, the third in my collection of 3 models exactly like this. And I really do enjoy working on these, especially when you look at the result. I mean, this thing is what, 64, it's older than me, right? It's older than me, and it looks younger than me. Mind you, some of the stains here, the mess up I did, is starting to look a little bit like my skin. So yeah, this thing looks fantastic. It looks like it was designed yesterday, and it'll fit nicely anywhere. And with this laser cut back, I really am pleased with this. I did not expect the laser cutting to come out this well. I'm still sort of learning how to use it. It's quite a learning curve for me. And once I have that sorted, I'll be doing a video showing you what some of that machine can do. Right, that's it for now. That's another project completed, and I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon and PayPal. Thanks for watching. Bye for now, and most of all, stay safe.